around what fatherhood entails. So often hear of guys who tell their friends, "Look, I can't come over today. I'm helping my wife with the kids." We hear of guys saying, "No, man, I'm helping around the house now," and you realize that we have a sort of a distorted understanding of what fatherhood was supposed to be. The father is more than a sperm donor, and the reality is, we buy cars that we treasure, but we didn't make them. We just bought them. We buy houses we protect. We put electric fencing around the house. You have beams, but a house you never made. Even if you build it from scratch, you never supply the materials. A house is one of those things you meet. You meet your car. You met your car on the showroom floor. You met your clothes in some fashion store. But we treasure those things. We make money in the corporate world. We make money. We don't make money. Nobody makes money. They're lying. Anybody tells you makes money is lying. Only the mean makes money. But these are the things we never made. Things we merely met, which we treasure. Ask any man right now how upset he'd be if his car was crashed. You're crazy. Imagine if you took your suit to the dry cleaners and they bent it or scotched it somewhere. You'd be putrefied. You'd believe it. But kids, we made these children. They come from us. There was a time these kids were in our bodies. We made them. But we are so intolerant. You don't care what happens. Right now, the complaints coming through. Men are frustrated because they have to help with schoolwork. They're frustrated because the house is turned upside down. They're frustrated because there are intolerable levels of noise. Do you know why? Because prior to the lockdown, we delegated those responsibilities. When people talk of getting a good school for their children, it's a school that gets them out of their hair. We want a school that will take care of their pastime, their extramural bag for making money. We just want to crash. We have no tolerance for it. But that's what is wrong with this world, because when you create that void, somebody else is filling it. When you create that void, the liberals, the conservatives, the traditionalists, the religious, everybody's occupying that space. And that is why when you go around religious circles, you have this culture which cannot even be sustained from the scriptural transcripts or manuscripts. The scriptural, the scriptures, the various people believe in, cultures of spiritual father, my father, my papa, because we've created a void. A few waves have come that created the fatherhood void on Africa. The first one was slavery. Well, you could say that we never felt it, but historically, we are related to the slaves. And we moved further north there and occupied the rest of the continent. Slavery came and it took the fathers. And wars came and took fathers. And different political, tyrannical models came. Apartheid was one of them. Colonization, they took fathers. Crime came and took fathers. And but then we also had social choices we took. We choose to hang out nightclubs, we hang out the golf course and all. It takes fathers. So the issue of an absent father is a very serious issue. With the result that the mother has had to step in, but it does not matter how powerful, it does not matter how purposeful, it does not matter how genius a mother is. Even the best mother can never be a father. There is a reason God in his wisdom created life in such a way that they would have to be a father. Somehow they would have to be a father. I come from a background where my father left when I was 7. I remember all the fights. I remember all the violence there. I remember the neighbors stepping in because my mom and Dad were fighting physically. There were axes, there were knives. I saw my father bring women home, and when I was 7, it was all over. And basically, I grew up in a family that was managed by a single mother. My mother had no education. She had to hold 7 jobs. At 51, she was finished. She was pensioned at 51. And all she had to fill all the gaps. And all that we were affluent. We were a very poor family. So there was a father void in my life. And there are things I wish I would have been taught by someone who made me. So I've had to rely on people who met me. The pastor met me. My school principal met me. My teacher met me. Every other community leader met me. But the man who had made me lived away with some other family there. It was 18 years later that I went to look for him. And when I found him, I brought him home. And in 3 weeks, he was dead. So the father is a very significant figure in society. And we are more than just sperm donors, as I said earlier. And we need to own up. And I think if you ask me if there are any gains from this lockdown, one of them is you are forced to spend time with those you made. You are forced to sit there if you have not done it before. And it's important that you realize that fatherhood was never classified an essential service out there. It's been dictated an essential service in here, because maybe that's where the focus was supposed to be. So when you talk of a father leaving a legacy, we talk about a man who's always around. You must hang out with those you made. They must know what you stand for. They must know where you're going. They must know where each of their lives come in and make this thing called family move together in unison. So that's what we want to talk about today. First of all, we asked the question, what will I leave behind? Will I leave monuments in my honor? Will my children be able to move around and say, hey, that street was named after my father? Is that all there is to fatherhood? But because if that's all there is to fatherhood, then there isn't room for many of us out there, because you can't have any man leave a physical monument. And now there'll be no places to park cars, there'll be no places to build flats, there'll be no places to recreate if all we did there was bring up monuments. But you can leave monuments in here. A father can live philosophical, can live moral, can live vocational, can live educational monuments in their children's head. Because don't forget this, you did not just come here to make them. You came to shape their thinking. And one of the worst things that can ever happen to a father is to be absent. To meet your kids in the passage there, to be absent, to meet your kids in the car on their way to school, and to be absent and to leave your kids, to meet your kids at church. Even if you're a pastor, some pastors only meet their kids at church. And while you do that, you are leaving nothing here. Your kids have no monuments in your honor in their heads here. How are they going to remember you when you're gone? Will you have given them something to believe in? Will you have given them some principles to base their life? Will you have laid down a moral foundation for them? And will you have left them with something not only to preoccupy them, but something to make them significant members of a community? And that is why we have to talk about the philosophical, the moral, the vocational. We have to talk about the legacy that we all leave. To start with, there is no man who believes in nothing. Now, I can't be the kind of father who believes in nothing. I can't be a man who has no opinion on anything. And while we talk about that, we can't be a man who's swayed by every wind of thinking. You must be a man, however dumb your belief is, but you must be a man with a belief. I'm a Christian man. My kids know I'm a Christian. I'm a pastor. My kids know that some time back, I surrendered my life to God. I stand for that. And my kids know that that has become an influence in how I see my life in how I see my wife, in how I see them, in how I see my community, in how I see every aspect of my existence. Now, a father is there because very soon, when you become timid about your beliefs, then you're letting the wolves come in. It's unthinkable that while I'm not allowed to be a philosophical compass to my children, some young lady who's called their teacher can come in and fill that gap. Some member of parliament can pass the law and fill that gap. Some activist, some liberal, some conservative can come in and fill that. I am a father for a simple reason that I did not just donate my sperm, I also donate my ideas. But I donate my ideas to none other than the ones I made. So we need fathers who don't tolerate the existence of their children. We need fathers who are there. They're the coach. The father is there. He's the philosopher. And philosophy has nothing to do with your level of education. I was invited to talk to some students at the University of the Free State. And I said to them, the first thing we need to do is we need to distinguish between intelligent people and educated people. Because intelligence is not a product of education. Education is a product of intelligence. And that's what I mean, Dr. Kotu. I said, no, but we should think about it this way. Some intelligent men set up an educational system. Educationists did not create the concept of intelligence because the first guy who ever conferred a degree on anyone never had a degree himself. So we should realize that intelligence is inherent, it's intrinsic to existence. You can never go to an institution. So when I say philosophical, I don't mean the father has to go there, get many degrees. Philosophy is one's outlook on life. Philosophy is love for wisdom. And wisdom you'll never get from any university. A lot of people with educational qualifications are dumb. They are educated. They are certified idiots. These guys, they are loaded with qualifications. They have graduation photos. But they have idiotic ideas. Because don't forget, life demands far more than just opinion. You know, one of the basic lessons you learn in philosophy is there's a major difference between an opinion and a reasonable belief. You know, because the reasonable belief has undergone some set of some basic tests of logic, and people don't just subscribe to it unless there's gone some empirical influence on it. It's been tested and tried, and you can't be a father and not have something to draw from, because we have ancestors, our dead fathers and fathers, and over the years they've passed on an outlook on life which shapes our life. You can't be afraid to voice that out, especially to the ones you made. You know, government can never step into a gap where they replace the father, like the new agers are trying to do. We have to believe in something. Long after you are gone, a lot of what will have shaped your children revolves around your sharing your beliefs. I share my beliefs with my children. I sit around my table and I say to my children, this is what we believe. And until you're old enough to make your own deductions, trust me, I made you. I have vested interest in your existence. And unlike the teacher, the school can dump you. Unlike government, we change governments all the time. Unlike your peers, they move on. And unlike friends you meet, I am going to be around. If anything I teach you is erroneous, I have to live with that. Now, I'm the kind of guy who, if I taught you anything wrong and it backfires, I'm there to pick up the pieces. So trust me, I can't have a situation where my son trusts the pastor more than he trusts me. I can't have a situation where my son trusts the neighbor more than he trusts me. I can't have a situation where my son trusts the activist more than he trusts me. And I have laid down a philosophical basis upon which my children can grow. In this house, we believe that gender is decided at the point of conception. in my house. I tell my kids, I believe that you don't have to worry about if you're a girl or a boy. That was decided for you by God. I teach that. And I don't say when they grow up and they form their own opinion, they should not follow it. But while they're under my care, I have a God-given responsibility to build a psychological, to build a spiritual monument in their heads. This is what our dad left us with to believe in. You know, I don't know if you read the Bible or not, if you believe in it or not, but there's a beautiful story there in Jeremiah 35. And Jeremiah says, I had a word from God, which says, calling the sons of Rechab. You know, the Rechabites were foreigners among the Jews. He says, call them into my temple and offer them alcohol. So he calls the sons of Rechab and they sit there, and the descendants of Rechab, and he gives them alcohol. And they say, no, men of God, we don't drink alcohol. They say, our father, Jonadab, the son of Rechab, told us as pilgrims, don't drink alcohol, don't build permanent houses, so that wherever you shall go as nomads, you'll be well accepted, and you shall adhere to sound judgment. That's the legacy. That's the legacy. I grew up in a town. I tell my kids. And after my father left and my mother had no other means of sustaining the family, so my mother started a tavern, and then I grew up in a tavern. And I used to look deep in the face of these drunkards. And I used to look deep and hear the stories. And even at that age, I knew I didn't want to turn out like these guys. I've never tasted alcohol. I've never taken one full glass of beer growing up in a tavern, because my life was shaped by the wretchedness in their faces. And right now, my kids grew up on that. I told my kids, no, man, here is my view on alcohol. I'm not afraid to share my philosophical view with my kids. I'm not afraid of it. I am not afraid to tell my kids that I don't believe in homosexuality. If I believe in homosexuality, I'll probably be gay. I don't believe in that. Now, somebody could say that makes you homophobic, but they don't realize that maybe you're also heterophobic. Maybe you have a dislike for straight people. But I don't trample down the rights of other people who differ from me. But that will never stop me from stepping out and saying to my children, here are my reasons. It's more than just my opinion. I realized that there are various factors that set apart men from women. And I'm not afraid to do that, because I am a shaper of their philosophical views on life. I'm not ashamed of it. If my kid walks through the door and says, Pa, what do you think about Allah? I don't have to hate the Muslim to say, no, he's a false God. Because if I thought Allah was the way, I'd be a Muslim, not a Christian. Now, if any Muslim kid walks through the door and asks their father, Dad, what do you think about Jesus Christ? They'll say, no, he's a fraud. He is shaping their philosophical view. But I've always told my kids, it does not matter how I differ from other people. I respect their right to believe what they believe in. And I'll die protecting that right. So that's a philosophical view. We need to be fathers who spend enough time with our children to impart to them our basic beliefs. That's all it's about. My daughter walked in the other day and asked me, so how would you feel if I took this choice? I said, no, obviously I'd be disappointed. I would not have expected that from you, because based on how I brought you up, I would never expect you to. There's an expectation, because the danger is if you leave that void as a dad, somebody comes in and fills it. Now people say, no, you're a good parent. You're a liberal parent. Oh, you're a liberal parent. I turned 57 2 days ago. So to show that I'm a liberal parent, I should be quiet on all issues and let my daughter's 22-year-old friends shape the philosophical view. They must be the one who tell what is wrong, what is right. They must be the ones who tell, no, this is the correct way, this is the wrong way. Now, that means I should sit at home, be quiet on issues that really matter, and let some teacher I've not even met tell my kids what is wrong and what is right. That is not the way. One of the biggest bullies we have in society today are the liberals. Because in the attempt to fight conservatives, they become conservatives to their liberal views. Liberals are very conservative about their liberal views. Now they're back where they found the conservatives. Because people always leave that kind of discourse to complete strangers. I'm sitting here and I'm leaving my children's belief system to people I've never even met. How naive and how dangerous that is. The second area, I think fathers need to come in and leave a legacy in, is in the vocational area. Now, somebody said, how absurd is it? How absurd it is that we are happy to send our children to complete strangers, to educate them, to prepare them to work for other strangers. Where is the intelligence there? And all the while, we're paying. We're paying for the tuition, strangers teach our children, and other strangers employ them. We die, we leave nothing for them. One of the mistakes we did when the colonists came in, we allowed them to retrain us, to reorientate us. And one of the biggest deceptions they sold us was, you need a certificate to make a significant contribution towards society. Now, when you go to strong cultures around the world teach you one thing. Families run businesses. Families have trades. Families contribute to a collective vision. And as a result, it would never matter who's born, who dies. That legacy continues. We need to step back and ask ourselves questions. If they found us well supplied, if they found us established and reasonably above the waters in terms of survival issues, why did we allow them to disorientate us? If the objective was not to colonize our thinking. And I know, let me tell you why you hate what I'm saying. Because you are choosing the easy way. I sat my kids down when they were very young and I said, look, this is who I am and this is what I stand for. And when you came into my life, I thought we were coming together to build some sort of an empire, some sort of a legacy that as I live to you, you shall also live to your children. We have this vision. This is the family vision. And I want you to sit there and decide which contribution are you going to make? Because once I take my money out and I send you to school, I must know that what you're going to learn there, if I can teach you myself. Because if I can teach you, there's no need for going to school. I hate myself. I'm supposed to be overloaded with PhDs and all that, but I hate myself. If I can't teach you, then I'll send you to strangers. But if I can teach you, I don't need to send you to strangers. Because in life, you don't need a certificate to make it. The realization the political world is coming to is the future does not belong to certified people. The future belongs to skilled people. But then it's not a new concept. Because when the colonists came here, they found Africa living that way. We are in desperate times now because the father, who may even be present, is too cowardly to take the kind of risks that would render his coming generation fruitful, focused, and successful. With the result that we each choose the easy way. That is why when you look at the majority of the Black students we send to school, they learn skills that can only make them employable. And when we die, we leave our kids in the hands of people we don't even know. And we hope that when their kids come out, they'll also embrace some new profession that they shall pursue. And that is why you get one man, he's a civil engineer, their son is a lawyer, their daughter is a nurse, and their other daughter is a politician, and we're scattered all over. Whereas if you follow strong cultures from the Middle East, from Africa, from Asia, there are cultures with a concept of family business. We need to be the kind of fathers who step into that gap and take the risks. The last time I drew a salary was 2003 when I left my government employment. So you could call me a hustler. I see myself differently. And all the while, we've been working on things which, when I'm dead, my kids don't have to start all over again. When they come and ask, so what do you want to be? No, this is what I want to do. Okay, fine. Where does it fit in here? No, this is how I see it fitting. And we have a motto on this house that when one of us makes it, all of us will be your employees. If you make it, we are hired. That way, if Shimmy dies today, my kids have a legacy to continue building that will outlast their generation and go to the other side. No, we don't have time, but I thought maybe those two will matter. Build a philosophical legacy. Establish a moral compass. Teach your children the values that they can use and be significant members of society, the values that will render them profitable, safe, beneficial brothers and sisters to the rest of the human race. Principles that will sustain our society beyond our era. But secondly, let's rethink. I know it's going to take time, but good things take time in coming. Let us think about going back to the ways where a lot of what our children should be does not have to be taught by strangers. Let me stop there. Thank you.
Wow, Dr. Kotu. I wish you could have been able to see all the videos of new fathers that are recycling themselves, fathers that are getting the encouragement to keep doing the right things, and fathers that took the off-ramp and have suddenly started reversing back to get back on the freeway. Thank you very much for so generously sharing your wisdom, so generously sharing the life lessons that you are imparting. You know, sometimes when you read the headlines and the topic says you are leaving a legacy, I thought you were going to tell us about piles and piles of money and material possessions that we must leave behind for our kids. But you took us on a long journey within, a journey that brings us much, much closer to the God that we have inside, a journey that takes us so far in that when you look at the world that is external, you realize it is nothing compared to what we were born with and what you have been gifted. And I thank you very much for the wisdom of what we can share and give to our children to the benefit of not just our own families, but our neighbors' families, our community, society, and humanity on large.
Thank you,
I see you want to say something. The conversation, it's good. The conversation is going to continue online, and more questions I'm sure are there, and people continue to be quite excited about what has been shared today. This is not the end of these conversations. They're going to be happening throughout the week. The next one will be coming up at 5 o'clock, and I hope everyone will still be able to join that particular one when it comes up, where we're going to be talking about knowledge of self-determination by Hakim Anderson Lesolang at a point in time. But for this particular one, my humblest, I don't know how to put it because I'm almost overwhelmed, and it's unlike me to be overwhelmed. I'm usually quite a composed guy. And I hope everybody can say...
Okay. Too much. Remember, I used to ask you that.